I remember this story. I wonder what's going on with it. With David, it's a. We'll get into it, but my God, that is an amazing story.
No, yeah, I mean, okay, so I sent through a link earlier because I did want to get your commentary on the David situation. We're rolling, just so you know. But what do you know about it, and what are your thoughts on it?
I remember watching the news because I'm kind of a newsie with stuff that's going on. I have a true crime show.
I know,
and it's called 1 Degree Scandal. It's doing really, really great. And when I got the link to watch, I was like, God, I remember this story. Is it because it's really recent?
Yeah.
And the guy who met this girl when she was 11.
Yeah.
And those that don't know, it's Celeste was her name.
Yeah.
But he did songs with her name in it.
Yeah.
He did all this stuff. I'm like 11 years old, so obviously his first concert was at Chuck E. Cheese. No, I'm like, what's going on with the same tattoos they had?
Yeah.
Kills her in the Tesla. And by the way, if you're going to kill someone, get a Waymo because there's no witness. But anyway, it's
not the worst thing ever. But they got to be covered in cameras, just like the Tesla, right?
Oh Jesus, there you go, ruining my whole.
See, I'm really thinking about this. I might really have to kill somebody. No, just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of surreal because it's like usually we're used to cases in which we see the cops arresting the most obvious suspect, and in this case, it feels like the trail of breadcrumbs has never been stronger in terms of establishing that this is this guy's MO, and still apparently they just don't have enough to arrest him.
Right, I'm watching it. It's like a 1 minute Columbo episode. It's like the guy has to. I mean, his song, the same tattoo in the finger.
Yeah,
he's known her for all this time. He sings a song about her. I'm just like, they're saying in the interview that this is not a person of interest. I'm like, not a person of interest. If they got married, it'd be, I now pronounce you person of interest and wife. This guy is, my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. So I don't know from that link, I haven't gone on the news story, if what's going on with him now. And it's honestly, it's one of those most amazing stories. And here's the thing. I think the biggest disease is when you're young. We see the story. There's a young kid who started making all this money, start doing concerts, start meeting probably women, start meeting this, and something happened that you had to get rid of something to cut something out of your life. And whether or not he did it, I don't know. But the story of finding the trunk of a Tesla, the smell of it during the summer, it's registered to him. I mean, it's sort of like, how is this not a person of interest?
I mean, the most obvious version of it is that somehow something happened. He kills her. He puts the body in the trunk of the Tesla. It's just kind of hard to imagine that any thinking person would leave this insane trail of breadcrumbs, put all these lyrics together, do streams online with the person, which is obviously already an insane thing to do with an underage girl if you're a successful recording artist who's signed to a major label. But then like the lack of intelligence that it would take to kill her and then just put her in the trunk of the car and then leave the car out for it to be towed, it just kind of boggles the mind of how somebody could be so not acting in their own best interest.
No kidding. I would love to see if they're going to ever release like interrogation tapes or something.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, you can kind of, I've done so many detectives of my show, and I did a public speaking of the Monterey and Seaside and Carmel, and I got to speak in front of 300 detectives and cops, and it's always they're always not the cops, but the criminals are always sociopaths, and they're always trying to deny anything. And it's sort of like speaking of the OJ thing, OJ was that sociopath, fit that whole psychological profile, and it's kind of like no brainers. They know, and usually when they have a good cop, bad cop, talking to detectives, it's because you want to become friends with them and they open up more. And it's like, hey, you're not a bad guy for doing this. Tell us why you did it. And, they're trying to get the information. And they're so good at what they do. And I think the interrogation of this young kid who he screwed up his life, basically.
For sure. Can you put the AC on? Oh, it is on. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, the thing that's kind of mind-blowing
about AC, OJ, AC. He drove the Bronco. Hey, what are we going with this now? Hey, what's going on here, man? What's with the reference?
God. I love the energy from you, dude. And you know what? As soon as you came on, you reminded me of Mark McGrath.
Oh, yeah, I know Mark.
Just energy-wise. Like him on the podcast is just pure energy, and you kind of have like a similar thing going.
The Fly. Well, I mean, what was the name of the girl? It spaced me.
Celeste.
No, the
Oh,
group.
oh, Sugar Ray.
Sugar Ray. Oh, yeah, Mark's a good dude.
No, okay. So, but that's the kind of crazy thing is that now David has apparently hired like Harvey Weinstein's legal team, which is, I kind of imagine would not have been financially plausible for him prior to his music going absolutely nuts. Apparently he's streaming at a rate that is like 100.
Still to this very, isn't there like
I'm sure a lot of it was probably like people who are just fascinated at first and tuned in, but I would assume some significant portion of them are still listening to the music. So he's probably not only basically being assumed to have murdered a young girl, but then also is now newfound rich.
Yeah, and obviously he has to get a lawyer and all that. And I wonder with him, it's a really young crowd.
Yeah,
I wonder if the crowd is so young that if he's guilty, if they even care, because we're in a society now of people getting shot.
Yeah,
and like the guy in New York, who has the insurance. Mangione shoots a guy 3 times in the back.
Oh, Luigi,
and people are like, he's adorable and all. It's such a. Would it be transfer in the rapper world of this guy? It's like he, maybe it's like, wow, now killing's okay, man.
I believe it because, okay, number one, you are always going to have a environment, and I actually believe that the OG trial was kind of like the beginning of this in our society in a way 100%. Where anything that happens, there will be like a counter narrative or an alternate version of events. And some significant portion of people are just going to choose to believe that because it kind of fits their narrative, which is a lot of it is kind of like men's rights activist type mentality where it's like, I just don't believe that this guy would kill the girl. But then on the other side of it, I do feel like, and especially like in the true crime genre, I feel like this is like a prevalent sentiment. But basically, like, there are women who look at men who are accused of horrible stuff like that in some way find this attractive because they see him as kind of just like a very passionate lover.
Yeah,
which is deranged, but you could imagine some percentage of women kind of latching onto that.
Like we've interviewed all these detectives. I said we had Gil Carrillo on. Gil caught the Night Stalker, and he would talk to like, hey Richard. He talked to him as Richard, like he was a son, and because Night Stalker didn't have family life, and he opened up. But women, you got married in prison. You got this, this whole thing with all fan mail of people coming to the courthouse, being able to get a seat, and having affairs. This guy, and he's he killed 14 people. This is just blows me away that these people are like, oh, I'm open to that. He's gonna, it's sort of like Henry the film. I don't know. So Henry the Portrait of a Serial Killer, based on Henry Lee Lucas, the guy who killed the most people in the world supposedly.
Oh, really? Wow.
And some people just get turned on to that. A real quick story. I'm going to stay with this whole thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So you just remind me. For some reason, I'm really a person. It's about light, not dark. So even when I was involved in this trial, I was like, oh, dark, because I just love laughter. I love people. So I was caught up in something. So through that thing, I became, beyond famous. I couldn't go up for like a year, and I'm not tooting my horn, being humble.
At a time where you didn't have zillions of micro celebrities.
You
were either famous or you weren't.
Exactly. And it was TV. Social media wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
So I got to meet, I got to introduce the Smashing Pumpkins. And when I interviewed, did the introduction to them, they were with a group called Pantera. Pantera loved me, shot a video with me. They had their own brandy. I ended up doing a TV series called Eye for an Eye, where it was a judge with a baseball bat of justice, and I was the host of that. And we shot in Dallas, where they had all their strip clubs. And we did a lot of our challenges in Eye for an Eye. People would have if you're guilty, you have to do something. For example, a guy who kept parking handicap, and he wasn't handicapped, so we gave him an epidural. He had to do things that your legs are paralyzed. He had to take a bath, get in a car, all these things. It was a great show.
You and Pantera did this on a reality show?
No, but we used their strip club for that. But while I introduced them, Dimebag Darrell gave me his guitar. Exactly.
Yeah.
Engraved my name in marble, and then gave me the guitar. 3 weeks to 3 months later, he got murdered.
Wow. So 3 weeks?
It was that in Ohio, because he started another band. A guy came on stage, shot him in the head.
Yeah.
So I go, Jesus, I hope everybody I hang out with just dies. And then I knew Robert Blake from the Playboy Mansion.
Really?
Yes. By the way, if you ever drive with him, never ride shotgun. But seriously, so it was like, oh my God, all these weird things.
Yeah.
That just why sometimes craziness approaches me. And I think it's because I'm kind of like affable and like, oh, come
Well,
to me.
as I talk to you, because I feel like that was one prevailing sentiment during the OJ trial and everything, was just pure astonishment by regular people. Like, I want to live with celebrities and pay $500 a month. I want to be friends. Like even me and my wife, we've done fairly well for ourselves, but she's a Zillow head. She's constantly just looking at what people's houses cost and everything. And she told me one day, like, no matter how well we do in life, we're never going to be able to live in Brentwood.
Oh, I don't believe that.
I mean, it's extremely expensive. Or I think in her mind, it's like we wouldn't be able to have the kind of house with the kind of yard that we would really like. We'd probably be better off living in a cheaper area. But I mean, I think to a lot of people, it's hard to understand how somebody could have the energy and the charisma to be able to just make rich, successful people want to spend time around them. And within like 10 seconds of being around you, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. And which is also crazy because you're old as too. So it's just like, I'm sure you as a 25-year-old or 30-year-old was like a totally different thing.
Oh yeah, completely that. And by the way, charisma, I've always wondered what the definition of charisma was.
Also, I'm sorry for calling you old as there. That just kind of came out.
Oh no, please.
I'm pretty up there myself.
In dog years, I'm 3,000. Anyways, no, a buddy of mine always told me what charisma, because you mentioned the word charisma. He said, well, what's the definition of charisma? He said, oh, charisma is that thing that women with really big tits have. Anyways.
It just so turns out, yeah.
That's charisma.
Yeah. No, okay, we're all over the place already, but I read Gwyneth Paltrow's biography, or no, a book that a guy wrote about her, like a very in-depth book about her. And that was one thing that really stood out to me, is that she's talking about like the experience of wearing this fat suit, and because she was in that movie. And so she's going out in public and she's talking about it afterwards, and she's describing how people just look through you, people don't pay attention to you, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, that's amazing that she had to put on this giant prosthetic suit in order to have the experience that nearly all of us have everywhere we go. Imagine being a guy in a bar trying to get noticed. But like, for someone like her, she had no idea what level of privilege that she was kind of living with up until the moment that, in her case, she had to put on this giant prosthetic suit.
And who would have thought that later in life she would be making a vagina candle?
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you tried the candle?
I haven't tried the candle, but I do order Goop food off Postmates, which I honestly feel like is some of the healthiest, best food on Postmates.
Candle smells like tuna. Anyways.
Wait, you really got it?
But it's so funny. It's so funny you mention that, because Shallow Hell by the Farrelly brothers. So Adam, this is great. A week before the murders even happened, a week before, I've got friends that I'd hang out with. One of the guys I hung out with was Aaron Meyerson. Aaron was a producer at New Line Cinema, an executive. Now, I had done, some commercials. I had my SAG card now for over 40 years. Aaron was a good buddy. We had another friend of mine named Dan Loeb. Dan Loeb is probably one of the richest people in America for sure.
Doing
what? Hedge funds. He lives in New York. Now, I understand that this is 1993, hanging out with these guys. We'd go to, this thing that single guys do. We went to Rebecca's in Venice. So he gives me a script. He goes, you got to read this script. We have to put you in this. So he gives me the script, 1993. I read for it. They film me. They test me. Murders happened a week later. Wow. That was Dumb and Dumber. I was reading.
Really?
Yeah. The Farrellys golf with them at a Bill Murray tournament. Told them this story. They said, "Fucking Kato, this is the best story." So they saw the tape. I said, "Yeah, Rick Montgomery cast it. You guys have the tape." They want to just keep it, trying to find if it's in a vault.
Wow.
So my whole life kind of stopped. But it's amazing that there's so much parallels in life of like I said. Why is it happening? Because I was so hot. When I say hot, no one wanted to touch me. But I think in everybody's life, your life, and everybody in the studio, you got like this blueprint, I believe, in life. It's going to be like, this is what your life is going to be. You're not going to get that, but maybe in 30 years, you're going to have something different, and you have to do the wait. But I believe that you have a blueprint in your life. You're going to live, and then you die.
Okay, so being in the situation that you randomly happened to be in, that landed in the situation where you're becoming like a notorious celebrity.
Yeah.
If you had a pie graph, gift and a curse, what percentage gift, what percentage curse?
50-50, and I'll tell you why. It's 50-50 because it's a double-edged sword. It opened a door. I mean, I came from Wisconsin. My whole dream was, hey, everybody wants to be famous.
Right.
I got famous for the wrong reasons, but I've always admitted it. I'm famous for completely wrong reasons. But I went to an acting academy. I've done all that stuff, but it just didn't work out for me to get what I was striving for.
Mm.
I was reading for something that would, I'm not saying I'd get the part of Daniel's role, but the hair I had, that whole look, just wasn't meant to be for me. And now I'm doing true crime podcast, and I've never wanted to embrace it. Now I have to embrace it. Now I'm getting public speaking and doing your show, and just so that's kind of opened up. But I understand when people make fun of me, and trust me, I just have been doing these interviews recently. I'm from Milwaukee, and the Brewers are playing the Dodgers, the whole thing, and I'm doing the affiliates because I'm from there and they know I'm here. So I do the interviews and they put on TV. So I see some of the comments and I can't read them because some of them are great and some of them just make fun of me, people I don't know. And it does affect me. So I say, I'm not even going to read this stuff. And it's like a lot of views and that are watching these segments.
Yeah.
So it's devastating. And I'm from there, so I love where I'm from. I mean, you got to embrace where you're from. I love being from Wisconsin. I love being from Milwaukee.
I mean, yeah, because that's the weird thing about being famous now versus being famous, 20, 30 years ago, is that at that time, you just didn't have access to all these different people who had their own personal platform where they could tee off on you and create conspiracy theories about you, et cetera. And so how is that from your perspective, in the sense that if people were going to have an opinion about you and you were going to learn about it, you had to basically either see them in public, maybe somebody writes a letter to Time magazine saying, "Hey, Kato Kaelin," or something.
Oh, yeah, well, that happens.
It's totally different now, like versus then.
Yeah, so you're saying then, so I get this right, you're saying back then they could damn you much easier than today.
Very true, yeah.
Yeah,
it was much easier to align and figure out one common narrative, whereas now everything is kind of split.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the LA Times, they had some stuff that was written about me. I got to write an editorial off that of explaining my side. And I was just, the butt of jokes, and it was a different time. It was Leno and Letterman, and Leno more the mean-spirited, Leno Letterman, Leno mean-spirited, Letterman very funny when doing those shows. So it's different. But I always laugh at myself. I really didn't take anything serious.
Right.
It's hard not to be affected by people that are negative on you. And it hurt there's nothing I could get. It was hard to get work.
Yeah.
But I did get the radio show with Stern. Stern was before me, then I was on the radio show. But I was on the same program with him. Yeah. He was first and I was came up after. And even he would just say the worst things to get me fired. And, I had security because there was death threats.
Really? It was that bad at one point?
Oh, my, yeah. I mean, LA was a 94, 95. It was, like I said, people had their opinions of either loving you or hating you, and they would just come right into your face.
It's just wild because I can't think of what the negative opinion of you would be. It's like really nothing to go on. But I guess maybe they thought you were involved at one point. Now it seems like very settled. Like we pretty much know what happened.
Yeah.
I guess at one point maybe they're thinking like, oh, this is Nicole's boyfriend. This is.
It would never touch Nicole, and she was great. It's amazing because Nicole at the time was met her through in Aspen. Real quick story. I was in Aspen with Grant Kramer, great guy. He was on General Hospital. He was hard bodies. He was a lead. He was a stud. They had done celebrity things together before, skiing and that. Their eyes connected in Aspen. She was divorced from OJ. They started dating. He and I worked together in a casting agency. We're very close buddies. So that's my thing. I was the third wheel. I was the third wheel in their dates, making her laugh. So that's it. Never interested in being a friend, but never sexually anything. And then it just wasn't my style.
Which is like when you're in the media, it's very hard for people to process that. If I had just some random female friend who was super hot and we kicked it and hung out, whatever. I mean, it's just, there's no way you're going to be able to avoid the narrative of they are having sex. They are secretly having sex. I'm 100% sure because I saw a photo of them standing next to each other.
100%. And back in those days, there was hard copy and current affairs now. And that's the shows that killed me because they would say there's a drug connection. I don't do drugs, never done a drug. Don't hold me against me. I just don't. I don't need it. And they did all these stories about me being this person I wasn't. So that affected me. And when you defend yourself, it makes it worse for you. You just got to take it in, and you could say, hey, I don't do this, because people will just go, oh, he's so full of it. What a liar. They don't know you, but that's how.
And they assume he's in Hollywood. He's in a rich part of LA.
Yeah.
Of course, he's doing coke. Everybody's doing coke and Hollywood. Like people in like middle of America, I think that like that.
Oh my.
They like to have their conspiracies about the coasts a little bit. Like it's too much of like it removes individuality.
Yeah.
Of like and I deal with that too, where people just assume that because of who I hang out with, I must be drinking lean and popping perks and all this type of shit. Which. Okay, I've dabbled, but it's like like people are too confident in their assumptions about you based on where you live.
Yeah, and it's like that exactly what you say, because you're guilty by association, sort of. And back in the day, the court of public opinion made up their mind about me, so a lot of them didn't like, and it was like, Jesus, I was the freeloader, the dummy, even an assassin's target. I was everything, and so I just said, you know what, my byline that I go by, that I really believe it's like, never has a man done so little to be recognized by so many.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. I just was there. And I was like that. And, I've my friends that I've met, my best friends are still the friends that knew me before. And it's like, when you have tight family, I do. It's sort of like that saves you, because I had so many people going, do you need to see a doctor? Do you want, can I help you out? It's like, no, I'm fine. I know who I am.
Yeah.
So
it's funny though, because it's like, if you were more boring and you had been thrust into that scenario, if you were Oscar, the janitor who knew 8 words of English, you could imagine that probably that guy wouldn't have really stuck with people that would have been able to move past him. But especially when you see the photos of you that young, no homo, but you're a good looking guy. It's like, it's very easy to see how you had the star power for people to really like cling on to you there.
Are you kicking me under the table?
No,
I'm kidding. Hey, I am not gay. I've never been gay. I'll never be gay. My boyfriend, he's fucking gay. No, I'm happily married.
Wait, okay. You wait. How long you been married?
I'm married now. I'm going to my 4th year in May, and I was married. I tell this story because I think it's great. I was married at David Zucker's house.
Really?
David, who did Airplane, Naked Gun movies, and all the, Naked Gun had OJ in it. So I thank David for not inviting Nordberg. So,
wait, but this is your first marriage, or you had one prior?
I had one prior.
Okay.
That's when I was a youngster in college.
Nice.
And then I just have a beautiful woman from Beijing.
Beijing, really?
Yeah.
And you met her out here?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you know, I used to host the Wizard World, the largest traveling Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So I traveled with Stan Lee. We did all the DC actors and all the Marvel actors. So I traveled for 4 years all over the country. Best gig ever. And I had, it was the MC. And being the MC, we'd end the show with some of the actors. I remember Jason Momoa, who's Aquaman. We do the last hour of show is Kato Kaelin, where I invite everybody in costume to come up and we do an hour of karaoke, but as the characters, and it was widely popular.
What is, I know, like for me, if I see somebody who knows me on the street, it's always like, holy shit, you're so tall.
Yeah.
What is like the default things that you're most used to people saying when they see you?
Same thing, so tall.
Really? Oh,
okay. It's not so much appearance. It's more like, geez, I didn't know you were a fun guy. I didn't know you were this person. I think it's more that it's like, Jesus, did I judge you wrong? I think people back then, especially, but people would go like, I apologize. I had you completely wrong. And I do some kind of funny stuff on my Instagram page. So I don't think they know I had this backing of, I guess, comedy or whatever. I was always like love laughing and writing stuff. So I think it's that, but also they still think I look good. I know I'm older, but they still think, hey man, you still look like that guy. Well, I'm the same guy, kid. So that's kind of a good thing.
Definitely. Do you not have interest in doing those sort of like nostalgia tours anymore, or is that still an option for you?
Well, I guess I just did last month. I think it was.
Oh, you still do it? Okay.
I just did my first autograph show. I didn't want so it was kind of funny because it was packed. Really? And I was like, wow. I think the Netflix series had a lot to do with it. But I'm surprised at how many people actually, I'm sure for you, that listen, you kind of do these shows, you go, I wonder if anybody's listening. Yeah. And then they quote my true crime show, and they go, wow, this really, people are really into podcasts. I'm sure like my show and your show for sure has bigger ratings than like CNN, MSNBC. I guarantee it.
Well, sometimes you see the viewers that they have, and they might have like 100,000 viewers during prime time, and it's if you have 100,000 on your weekly podcast on YouTube, you're looked at as being reasonably successful, but not huge. There's a lot of podcasts, random Joe Rogan podcasts have 5 million views.
Yeah, but
that's
that's the percentage. That's there's top percentage. It's also percentages of 100,000 or
Yeah.
a million. And
But if you rewind the clock 10 years, it would have been impossible to believe that some random actor, Joe Rogan, comedian guy, would be able to have an audience that is like dwarfing every primetime news show at the same time. Like that is, we're used to it now, but that is kind of mind blowing.
I did. I was wondering, and maybe you can help me out. Because I'd met Joe Rogan. I just wondered what was the thing that got it so popular? What was the thing that said Spotify said we're going to give you this? I can't remember what was that one thing. I know he did Fear Factor and all that, but still, that's just a TV show.
I mean, to be real, I think he was very, very early, like basically
timing, right?
one of the earliest. And then I think that his style, which is kind of like, I'll talk to anyone and we can talk about whatever. That in many ways has kind of become like the default most popular podcast style. And he was just kind of poised. He was right there for the explosion of comedy as something that is just beloved by Americans worldwide or all over the world as well. But I think he set himself up in the perfect place, built up this huge audience. Spotify at one point was really trying to solidify themselves as a real player in the podcast space, and he was just, you got to get the number one guy if you want to like really tell the world, hey, we are a platform for podcasts. So he was there.
But he was the number one guy when they got him, and just continued to make it bigger for Spotify, right? I mean, it's just. And by the way, I love the show. He's great at what he does.
He's definitely great at it. But actually, I said that it's kind of the default style for podcasts, but in a lot of ways, it's really kind of different because I remember I was driving to Palm Springs, and so I put on a Joe Rogan interview and Post Malone, and I'm probably an hour and a half in before I realized like, he has not said anything about any of the shit that I would think to ask Post Malone about that makes him interesting. You're one of the most popular musicians in the world.
Right.
You tour the world all the time. They're talking about archery. They're talking about MMA. They're talking about just the most regular shit, which that to me is kind of like not how I think of podcasting. Like for me, it's like, no, I want to ask Kato Kaelin. Like at least I want to hit like the 10 things that I wrote down that I thought were like the most interesting shit. But with Joe, it's very just, they flow. And that's kind of dope. Yeah.
And he probably did it like a 2-hour longer show.
I think it was 4 hours. Yeah.
Oh, and
I probably didn't finish it.
Okay. I wonder if in that 4 they probably had to mention something about music. I think you almost have to.
It probably came up, but very minimal, really. And I think that's appealing to a lot of people. You have the most famous person in the world on your show, and then you treat him like a completely normal person.
Yeah, but also, and I think also Rogan's UFC stuff just made it even more popular for him.
Yeah,
he had that going on. That guy, it's like, wow, this guy's got everything.
And at least at that time, it was also like, oh, this is one of the most famous people doing podcasts, which now we're used to like Obama gets a podcast and nobody really cares that much. Yeah. But at that time, to have like a very recognizable, well-known person from UFC and Fear Factor, that was kind of enough to push it over the edge.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. So, podcast is obviously the new way to just, everybody's got a voice. And if you have people like an audience that they'll go, I'm gonna listen to this guy. And so it kind of has worked for me because now I can express opinion. People go like, he's not that dummy I thought he was. Well, maybe a little bit, but it works.
For sure. Just stay on like current events, because I do want to get into a little bit of older stuff. But what can you tell us where you were when you found out that OJ died?
When OJ was, I think it was April 8th. I think it was early morning. I was at home. I woke up in the morning and my phone, you get that feeling the phone is over like 200 messages.
Yeah.
And I immediately go, someone died. And then I saw that the OJ had died. And then every news outlet wanted to talk to me. And my number was, it's obviously one person gets your number. Everybody can get your number. And everybody asked to go on a show. And it's just so kind of funny because I talked to a few people that were used to be in public relations, but they said, I said, I want to just release my own thing, not do a show and just go on and I did a 30-second message on X, Twitter, and every place played it, and it got to 1 million for me, which is a lot within probably 2 hours, and it went everywhere, and it was to the point about just saying, nobody likes, as far as the kids, nobody likes losing a family member of OJ. My heart goes out to the kids. I hope this brings closure to the Goldman family, and I don't think it ever will. And then I said, I just want people to remember that Nicole was this beacon of light, and she was the greatest energy ever. And that was kind of it. I mean, not exact, but those are the points just to make.
So your relationship with OJ or the idea of OJ never went to like, oh, I hate you, or I have, because that would be a very reasonable assumption, considering that the prevailing assumption is that he killed his wife that you were very close with.
Yeah, I would. I think it was a sort of a while I was testifying, I kept going in the sadness I had. I'd look at him, and I was thinking in my head, going, "Why don't you just say that you did it? You're killing these people." Because I was sequestered, but I saw the videos of what he did to the Goldman family, the Browns, everybody just bawling, and I thought, admit it. And I didn't know for sure if it's guilt or not, but then it sort of certain things happened that I said, "Ugh, he's so guilty." Later on DNA came out, but it was stuff that he wanted me. He said, "You know that, Kato, you and I were in the kitchen that night, and
While you were in the McDonald's,
right,
which you actually ate alone by yourself in your room, and then
which
he
was
said you guys were together, and that was interesting too, because that's like, oh, he just was just hoping that you would go along with it and lie under oath and all this shit.
100%. He said that you remember you and I ate in the kitchen, and I was like, no, we didn't, because I called up my buddy and said, oh, at the time before anybody knew what was going on, I was kind of like bragging, like, hey, Tom, no, just had dinner with OJ. I'm back in my room. Yeah, we had McDonald's. So I was doing this bit, and so that's why I knew he wasn't in the kitchen area with him. It was just a lie completely.
Yeah.
So, and then later on, I became friends with the lead detective, Tom Lang, and there's a book, Evidence Withdrawn, or I think Evidence Withheld. It's just overwhelming of everything that wasn't used, and all the people I had on my show of one of the greatest ones, I don't know if you know this, was this woman named Jill Shively. The night of the timeline, everything relates to the timeline of where it was with this. So,
which is interesting, because there's no other days in your life where you can break it down hour by hour, minute by minute like that. But obviously, you've been forced to.
To this day, Adam, I'll tell you how it affects my life. I have to know every second if I'm with someone or that. Before I was dating my wife and all that, I'd say, call me, text me that you're back home. And it became everything in my timeline, because I could see how you have to prove, no, I was there. I heard this song on the radio. It was on this station. There was this car. And so I was living that way. I'd write notes in a book of everything I did. So if anybody ever questioned me, it's like, I have proof that this is what was on the radio. So I was thinking, what was my thought? God, what was I just saying about the...
just him...
Oh,
dying.
Jill Shively.
Oh, yeah, right there.
She sees a car with no lights on the Bronco coming through a red light over in San Vicente, obviously coming back from the crime. She almost hits him. She calls and gets the license plate number, sees him. His car goes up on the curb, and she hears the voice, and she watched the Naked Gun movie, 94, the night before. So she knew the voice and looked and called in and said, it's a drunk driver. And they never called her in. He's coming back because he said he was home taking a shower.
Really?
Yeah.
And that didn't come out until after the trial?
Well, she went in. They interviewed her, said, I suppose that she thought, Marcia Clark, prosecutor, probably thought, we've got so much stuff, we don't need that one. I think that was like one of the biggest things they should have used.
Wow.
With this woman, Jill. Oh, and she sold her story to hard copy, which I don't know why that even matters, but gave the money away, didn't even take the money.
Really?
So it's just sort of like all these things that happen. It's like, oh, we got so much stuff, we'll get this. But that was just one of the things that kind of blew me away.
Right.
So yeah, I think when he wrote a book called If I Did It, it's sort of like, come on.
I mean, because it's funny, because in hip hop, there's like this thing that has kind of taken the culture by hold since maybe like the early 2010s with the early Chicago drill scene, where if your enemy dies, then you kind of celebrate. This is when, like, the invention of that, which I'm sure people like privately did that, but you didn't really see it publicly in hip hop. Even when you go back to like the Biggie and Pac murders and everything like that, anybody who had an issue with Tupac was not doing an interview afterwards saying fuck him. It was more like, hey, we're going to pay respect and not say that. I'm sure privately they would, but I think it was just considered too ugly to do that, which I feel like is probably even what would hold you back from sort of celebrating.
Yeah, because I think you said at the beginning of the show, I'm seriously all about the light. I hate even going backward.
Yeah.
I do. And when I was doing my radio show after the trial, after I got the gig with the Howard Stern before in LA, the KLSX, I remember people from Tupac's group came in, and they liked me and said, "Will you play this new song on your show?" And my show is more talk, but I said, "Yeah, sure." Now I didn't know a lot about Tupac. It's 94, 95 now at the radio show, 95 and 96. So I got it, and it was "Shed No More Tears."
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be "Hit 'Em Up." Here, okay.
Well, "Shed No More Tears" says "Remember Kato."
Right.
So I was like, is it about me? What was going on? So I didn't know, but I said, I love this song. It's talking about me.
But you thought that for a long time too, because I saw when you did the Vlad interview that you were still under that assumption. But Kato is actually a friend of his who lost his life. I don't know if maybe the Outlaws were in the dark about that, or.
But was his Kato? Was it named Kato for Bruce Lee? Because that's what I'm named. I wonder if it was the same thing with Kato.
I think they had a friend named Kato. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they had a friend who passed, and maybe they just thought you would think it was cool because it was the same name, or I don't know. Maybe they were trolling you.
No, they were great. Maybe you're right. Like and by the way, please remember Kato.
Yeah, remember Kato. He's deceased.
I'm with Adam, please. I'm alive.
No, yeah. I mean, it's super sad because a lot of those Outlaws guys are gone now too, and it's like you just get older and you start to just get used to like. Every week, somebody that you were around or were friends with or were cool with is losing their life. And even worse, like I just found out that a fucking dude that lived down the street from me died, and I didn't find out for 3 months.
Died from what?
Diabetes, I think. Okay. Yeah, but it was just like kind of weird to have a friend of mine just mention it on the phone, and like he was clearly like done the grieving process, and I'm like, him?
You got to be kidding me.
It's crazy, yeah.
That's my rap name, Diabetes. No, I have a question for you.
Sure, yeah.
So, because your studios, it's by the way, it's just so cool. It's a great place, and you have a lot of rap culture. Yeah. So you know the world. I don't.
Sure.
I'm I guess more alternative. But have you ever been to the parties, the like album release parties, whatever, any kind of rap parties? Are you ever scared when you go that there could be like a shooting or something? When you go, do you ever have a fear, or you're like, no, that's people just talk about that, it never really happens?
If I go to a hip hop oriented party, for sure I should probably have security with me. I run my mouth pretty consistently, but am I scared of it ever? Yeah, but it kind of depends on the clientele in this, and that's really something that kind of holds LA hip hop back, is that there's a lot of artists who come out, get popping, they're doing interviews, etc., and they're so gang related that nobody really is comfortable throwing shows for them, or it's like they're even like signing artists. There's certain artists that I've thought about signing, and then when I really listen to their music and think about all the different neighborhoods that they have beef with and stuff, and I just do I really want to take on the gravity of? But
do you know that when an artist gets signed, do you know that already because you have the knowledge of oh man, that dude got signed, he's from this neighborhood, he's rough.
Yeah,
no, so know
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of hard to avoid when you've like been around a little bit long enough, and everybody has their alliances, and it's like you either get along with this side or this side, and not that it's that simple, but for sure, there's a lot of that. Even I'm gonna give you an example. There's a guy who has been on this podcast, and we found out yesterday that he got killed going to a weed store. And when the people that I was talking to at the time found out what weed store it was, their reaction was like, damn, why the did he go over there? It's his enemy's neighborhood. And I guess to them it was 0% surprising that he got killed over there. And that's just the reality of being from out here, I guess.
He did your show.
He was been on my show a couple times, yeah.
Oh my! And obviously, I mean, I don't know the story, but he went into a weed store. Someone had to make a call and say, "Hey, he's here." Or how do you like so quickly?
A lot of rumors already that maybe a girl, it was a setup, a backdoor type thing.
Oh my God.
But it's hard to say. But realistically, I mean, yeah, it could have been anything, because it's like somebody could have seen him in there. Maybe he's in there for 10 minutes. Somebody texts their friend, and it's hard to believe that there's that many people that are like aggressively wanting to kill other people. But
and obviously they never caught the shooter, I bet.
Well, it was yesterday, so.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And you knew the dude, this blows me away.
And then that's the kind of thing too where it's like I go home and my wife's like, how's work today? And I'm just I'm not gonna mention that one. She doesn't need to know about that, because it's just too much for her to like, she just immediately imagines me in that scenario. Or what if you were standing next to him when the situation went down? Not that I know him that well, but
but don't mention the weed store. What was the area? Can you mention that?
Somewhere in South Central. I think it was on Manchester Avenue. Yeah.
Huh. Note to self.
Yeah,
Kato.
But ironically,
Toluca Lake, hang out there.
I mean, the reality is you could go there and nobody would ever care. You know,
Oh.
you're not from, well, obviously you probably might have to take some photos and stuff, but you know, you're not, if you're not
Right.
from where this
Well-
guy's from, then probably nobody's gonna give a shit.
You know, a really quick story is that we do our show. We just did last week. We did a tour of Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel was the Netflix series.
Yeah.
We go to the Cecil,
Great series, yeah.
and we're there, and it's insanity. It's on Skid Row, basically. I
Mhm.
mean, basically Skid Row. It's now a homeless shelter, I guess. We really can't get in. We snuck in a little bit, but I looked over my shoulder the entire time because there's stuff that's going on that's just people that are mentally disturbed. They're punching at the air. It's everywhere. And this one guy, African American dude, built. I mean, he was so muscular. He is got his shirt off, doing push-ups on the curb and doing these leg kicks. He's doing all this stuff, and he's playing this rap music. And I thought, is this his stuff? Because it was brilliant. I mean, I've never. It was all, you know, you mother. The way but the beat. I'm going. No wonder he's working out to this. I said there, camera guy, you got to get this thing. And you know, who knows if you discover, but if I knew enough about it, I would have said, is this your fucking song?
Yeah.
Because this is brilliant. You're working out here on a curb. Like, he's homeless.
Yeah.
But he's working out, and he's, you know, there's the shopping cart next to him. And I'm like, holy, how did you get where you're at? And still, where'd you get this great little stereo you have too?
Yeah.
You're playing this, but it's you got to. I think for culture, you got to go in daytime to see what it really is to live in a thing. I'm you and I and probably everybody, a lot of us, we don't have to worry about that right now. But it is amazing, the culture of taking a walk in Skid Row and watching your step, because there's people shooting up.
Yeah.
And I would think it's only in movies. No, I saw it from my own eyes going, this is so scary.
Yeah, 2014 through 2016, I lived downtown. And I think the moment when I decided that I needed to get out was I went and got 2 pieces of pizza at the corner pizzeria. I'm walking back to my apartment, and I see somebody kind of like hunched over. I'm not sure. I'm like, what is this? A weird looking person. I start to realize, oh, they're like hunched over. And almost immediately the person is vomiting and blasting diarrhea all over the ground. And that was the moment where I was like, you know what? I think this is fucking up my quality of life. I got to get out of here. Realistically,
quality of life is fucking up your pizza. I'm not going to eat this now.
I mean, it's flooding my nostrils. I'm about to try to have this transcendent experience with this piece of pepperoni, and instead I have fecal matter entering my nose.
And like I said, we saw this, and it's like, yeah, I don't know what area you lived in, but man, it's there were open shops with other regular people that were there still.
Yeah.
I mean, cops were everywhere, but it just kind of blew me away of just how you kind of get there. But I guess people did get there, and I think it's drug related, because they were people just out of their mind, talking to nothing, to no one, punching and doing their thing. And I could totally see of just someone. And by the way, the Cecil was quite about at least 13 people jumped. That's where they jumped to their death. It's the history of that. And we mentioned Richard Mears. That's after he did some of the killings, his room 319.
Yeah.
So it's in back then, $20 a night. It was so
$20 a night. And you know what? You know what I heard about that place is that basically, like, if you're a sex offender, there are very few places that you can live, because if you want to get an apartment and they see that, it's going to be tough. A lot of homes and everything are like within proximity to like schools and shit like that. So that's why a lot of the people who end up staying in those sort of hotels, which are short-term rentals or hotel fees or whatever, I think that there's like a huge percentage of people who live there. And then you also just mix in the homeless people and the drug addicts and everything. And you really end up with a pretty toxic crowd. You know?
Yeah. And now they're fixing up somewhat. It's construction. We were there going in there and putting a little bit of marble. I think it was marble, but we got in a bit and filmed. So, but it's such an interesting story, and the spirits supposedly that go on there, but you don't want to stay there.
I mean, it's funny though, because when you think about that documentary, which for almost all of us, I think was the first time that we found out about that case, the documentary goes through all the different conspiracy theories before it lands you at the truth, including like the metal dude, who it's kind of like, you know, they prop up this whole theory and you're starting to think like, this girl got killed by some metal dude.
Right.
and then 20 minutes later you realize like, oh, this is not it at all. This is totally debunked, and then you kind of end it with the truth.
Yeah, it was by Ron Howard and Brian Grazer.
Yeah,
you know, they're like this huge team. They made it. That's why I think it was so successful. Also, they made this documentary of the story of this girl, Lisa Lamb, who just was found in the water tank. So it's kind of bizarre, but I really love true crime. I just think there's always going to be crime. So it's just, you know, crime does pay if you have a good podcast.
But do you ever have any like moral questions about making that kind of content? Because I'm sure that documentary, as much as we can all look at it objectively and say this is an incredibly well-made piece of content, they took a story that almost none of us knew about, and they managed to make this however many part series that told the story in a very captivating and interesting way. And ultimately, you know, presenting the world with the truth can never really be that bad of a thing. But at the same time, there is a family of that girl that I'm sure were at least somewhat displeased with this content being released. And that kind of mirrors the whole situation with Nicole, where a lot of times the pain or the horror of this young lady being killed kind of gets lost because of the whole circus surrounding it.
100%. I think I saw that in the face of the Goldmans and the Browns.
Yeah.
You see that. It's like, oh, everybody's on a show. There's nothing they can do except hopefully not watch it, because it'll just always be on, and it's always going to be related. I also think about my sister lost her son in Iraq with a suicide bombing, and every time there's a war picture,
your sister lost her life for
her son.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it was. So when he died, every time I see stuff like Full Metal Jacket, if she saw any of these movies, I think of the same thought of she's got it relives that pain no matter what. So she stays away, like Saving Private Ryan. And anytime there's a horror film of someone getting decapitated or something knife, how do you not think of going, my God, how brutal is that? Even though it's in a fake movie, but it happened to other people in real life. I think they've got to, if they watch it, it's like they must relive it constantly. I'm sure that there's nightmares, and everybody talks about closure. I don't think closure ever really happens. Closure, of course, OJ's dead, but is there really closure because they lost a daughter and the Goldmans lost a son? So a brother.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, as far as you know, upon OJ's death, did any new information emerge as a result? Because you would kind of think that if he had confided in anybody about the truth of that night, that might have came out around the time of his passing. Do you know of anything like that?
No, nothing of that. And I've always wondered, like, his closest friends, was AC. I don't know. I can't, everybody can speculate, but that was his brother.
Right.
That's the guy in the Bronco. What was that slow Bronco chase? It was so many hours. What was said? Was there a confession? You have a best friend, I'm sure. If you tell your best friend everything, so maybe we never heard a word from him ever again.
I mean, that's a heavy burden to carry with you, to never confide in anyone.
That's what. And by the way, AC was so close to Nicole. Like, honestly, he adored her. Now, does he know everything? I don't know. Who's to say? But he was.
But so he's still alive and has never spoken publicly.
Never done it. I don't think he's ever even done an interview.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and also Rosie Greer was the I guess the minister, the OJ's priest, sort of, that went into jail. Always talked to him, and he asked him to confide in him. So we never know, because it's sort of like attorney-client privilege. So we never heard from him either. Rosie Greer. I don't know if he's living still or not.
Wow.
But there was a thing when someone said that possibly OJ had talked to him and told him everything. Who knows? Everything's speculation, so it's an opinion. So I don't know, but I think you're right. Don't you want to confess before you're going to die to someone? And maybe he's got his own. Maybe he's in hell. I don't know.
Yeah.
But who do you talk to?
It's very easy to imagine him being able to, not disclose this publicly, but you would just think, like, if you had any kind of, but then again, like, okay, if he gets in a relationship with a woman, why give her that leverage over you? You can't tell her. I mean, if you're smart at all, and that's the amazing thing about it. This is like one of the dumbest murders ever. He just took like no steps to prevent himself from being caught. How are you such a bad criminal? And then as soon as you're done the murder, you become so tight-lipped that you never put anything out there. That just seems like it doesn't
I thi-
align right.
I think possibly the dream team that he had convinced him and said, we can get you off this thing.
Yeah.
I also think that he got to a point where he believes his lies so much that he thought, I didn't do it. Because I think you start sociopathically, you start thinking, I didn't do it. You convince yourself that I have nothing to do with this thing. And, you know, seeing from day one, the interviews, by the way, are brilliant from Lang and Vanetter on the first interviews. And I got to hear some of them. And you think, oh my God, how he's saying, I'm so sorry, you guys, I'm so sorry. And they're like, what are you sorry about? And the phone call there, he never once asked about the kids. Who doesn't ask about when your wife is murdered? You don't first say, well, where are the kids? What's that? He never mentioned a thing about that.
Yeah.
He just said, I'll be down. I'll take the first flight out of Chicago or whatever. So, you know, he never brings it up.
From your time spent with him, and being that you're older now and you're maybe better at putting together your opinion of him from a psychological perspective, do you look at him as somebody who was just so egotistical, so filled with his own hubris that he just was like a real, true, genuine psychopath that just didn't care about anybody?
Yeah,
That's
100%
what it seems
sociopath.
like.
Yeah, he's 100%. I actually had a girl who at the time came by and all that, and OJ had tennis courts and that, and she and I were hitting tennis balls, and then there's a basketball court there, and I went to the bathroom, and so later on she came up and just said, he asked me out, he's hitting on me, and I didn't care, I wasn't like attached to her, but she was a date that I had that he's picking her up because I was nobody to him. I just had the guest house until I find another one. So yeah, he hit on there, and you know, I said, my God, you need my girl that you're OJ in an NBC broadcast, you millions in Brentwood, and why would you want to take? And like I said, I didn't care, but I was like, any other person, it's like, you're hitting on the girl I'm with. This is kind of low class.
Yeah.
So, but I think he did that a lot. I really think that was his character. That he, you know, what's funny is because when he had all those things going on in his life with NBC, football, the Hurts, all this stuff, Naked Gun movies, he had everything. And he even spoke a little bit different. I noticed there was a change after the trial. He hung around just criminal people. His voice changed and he became, I guess, got dumbed down or something. It wasn't the same person. He kind of just became a lost soul. And I think he went just a complete dive.
It's interesting because that character sketch that you just supplied is kind of very similar to a lot of rappers that I know. And I'm not even talking about like the killer rappers who are actually like, you know, convicted or accused of that kind of stuff, but more like these guys just get their ego pumped up to such an extreme degree that like hitting on this random person's girl when realistically the girl that you're on a date with probably means so much more to you, even if it wasn't serious, but you're a regular guy. How many girls do you get to go on a date with in the course of a year? I mean, it's not that insane of an amount, but for him, this is literally nothing. You could be with a supermodel tomorrow if you wanted, but like that kind of thing is like the kind of thing that I do see rappers get their ego inflated to such an extent that they just cease to treat anybody like they have any humanity. Everybody is just kind of fodder, but I also get it because I see the way it is for them at shows or when people are around is like that feeling of everybody wanting your attention. It becomes so easy for them to kind of dismiss their humanity.
Oh, right. When you start believing, when your ego takes over, you're dead. And that's the truth. And you can ask, I don't, like you said, your world is rap. I don't know. I know some, but if you're not, I'm not putting them down. I don't, but if a person is not educated and if their family life is kind of fucked up, I think you're going to be fucked up because if you're not, first of all, educated, that life is not the same as a life of a person that grew up with of loving and all that. So there's a disconnect, I think, somewhere. And I think that's why, I mean, like you said, I mean, shootings are like really easy to do for some people. I don't think they look at a life. It's gone. You're done. This life is no longer existence. It's out.
You consider yourself an empath?
Empath?
Yeah. Like you're governed by your empathy for other people. Do you feel other people's pain as opposed to like some people can't even feel
I like that term,
their own pain? I've probably got the definition of empath wrong, but
100%. I definitely feel pain of other people only because I know what pain is. I mean, if you don't have pain in your life and all that, I think of a person, for instance, David, we talked about earlier in the show. I think when you're young and you become very successful and you never suffered, I think that's the worst thing that could happen to you.
Yeah.
If you don't suffer, I don't know if you can relate to certain things in life. You've got to go through. You have to have pain. My belief is that you have to go pain because it makes you grow and you understand. You can see things around you and you go, I understand what they're going through.
Yeah. No, I feel like if you make it at 35 or 40, if you you know, bust tables for 10 years, you're just going to have a much better approach and appreciation for
100%.
the things that you now have versus like, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Juice WRLD. There was a rapper who died when he was like 21. And we were all around him for a good amount of time. He ended up basically like overdosing off Percocets when he was 21. But, you know, somebody like him, like I always just looked at him like, I wish that you got to feel what it was like to be a normal person, because he blew up at like 18. And if I felt like, you know, if he had had that experience of sort of seeing what life was really like, then maybe he wouldn't have felt like it was a good idea to just basically like take as many drugs as he was taking and stuff like that. He would have been able to maybe appreciate what he had a little bit more.
Right. And where's the point of what was the rapper's name that died?
Juice WRLD.
Juice WRLD. When he dies, before that, where was the thing that happened to it? Like you relate to that the film that came out recently of Elvis when he had his first drug and how that took over his life. Where was the same thing with Juice to have that where you said Percocet? Because it doesn't start. You don't just be. There's got to be a part where, oh yeah, and you start taking more and more. I don't know, but there has to be, right? You don't just become.
But that's the thing
drugs.
with him is that I remember talking to him and him telling me that he was off Xanax at 15 or 16 in high school, which I had a hard enough time in high school off without doing drugs that it's kind of hard for me to imagine going to high school and taking a drug that pretty much literally just wipes your memory.
And you were homeschooled.
Taking Xans with my mom.
Mom, we going to the prom? Yeah, get rid of your dad.
Nah, but yeah, I mean, he just never. I feel like if you start doing hard drugs when you're 15 or 16, you don't really have an idea of what life is really like without it, and that's got to be the hardest thing to get away from.
Yeah, like I said, it's like, I if you have bad people around you, you're going to do bad things. So I once again, I don't know. I'm sure he was a friend of yours, great guy, and he just believe me, I'm guarantee he wishes he didn't do that because he'd still be with us.
I mean, it's a tragedy for everybody because he was a real musical genius, like probably the most talented musician that I've ever been around.
That's amazing.
And, you know, even like the people that people compare him to Post Malone. And it's kind of like Post Malone's amazing, but Post Malone has writers. This kid, Juice WRLD, would get in the studio and just go and just put pure magic onto those beats without even trying. It was pretty unbelievable.
Wow. And it's, you know, talking to you, it's like you went through lots of friends of yours passing. I mean, the story you just told me about someone yesterday. I mean, you deal with it just the same, and people that you know, it just affects you. And I think that the empathy you said, you must feel it too. It's like, Jesus, man, they're so young. Okay,
so having all these years to reflect and sort of be able to look back at your life, what was the biggest change that happened to who you were as a person as a result of that trial and becoming famous and being in the media? Like, what was the thing about you afterwards that wasn't there before? Is there anything that stands out?
I think one of the things was that, I don't know if it's before or after, but I was very trusting. I trusted everybody. No one ever tried to do something behind your back. No, there's no way. And I trusted in all these terrible things we won't get into. Financially, everything was, you know, just didn't work out for me. And it was all because of trust. So now I grew up that, you know what, don't trust so easily. Trust has definitely got to be earned. So that's probably it, I think, is that success. Like I said, like mentioned, I have a blueprint, but maybe I wasn't supposed to be this super wealthy person or whatever. But now everything is 30 years later coming hopefully full circle. So I think I think I learned to have trust in a better way in my life, that I just don't become so open about everything. Like, sure, what do you need? I'll help you out.
Yeah, that kind of gets taken from you with fame, and just a lot of people come around that just don't have your best intentions in mind. Is there anything that you could share in terms of like the people who f***ed you over during that time? Like, what's the one that really stands out?
I think it would be more relationship wise of trusting certain women in life beforehand and then getting burnt later.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like I think you can kind of tell later that when you're being used, and I feel like back in the 90s, back then, I was this caricature. I really was. People were watching the trial. It was like during the soap opera hours. So I think everybody kind of related to me as a character, not a real person. So that kind of affected me. It's like, okay, I met you, see you, bye. You know, and every time I brought in for any kind of casting, I knew by the fourth time that I got called in for like a major film or whatever, it was just a curiosity. They had no interest in me, just to say that they met. So you can feel that when you're in a room, you can kind of tell like, oh, this is kind of a scam on me again.
Yeah.
And at one time, it kind of affected there was a TV show that set up a complete casting. And the casting was to do a reading for a film, and I read and I studied. I did everything. I bring notes that, I studied acting.
Yeah.
And it was all a scam on a TV show to play this tape of me and then re-editing it to make it look just horrendous.
Really?
Yeah.
And it
was on a major comedy show, major comedy station. That's all I'll say, but
not Punked.
No.
Okay. But like,
no, it wasn't. It was just kind of the ridicule of, it was like, oh, today we interviewed Kato. Here's what he was doing. And it was like, oh, it broke I didn't know until it came out. It really devastated me.
Just the fact that many people could work together to make you look bad for content and to just completely avoid your humanity.
Oh, and it aired.
That's gotta be tough.
Yeah, it was, and it aired because it was just another way to make fun of me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man,
wow, they
just destroyed me.
That's crazy. Did you speak to a lawyer about it or anything?
No. I just a Teflon had to slide off me.
Yeah.
But
when did you, because I mean, at a certain point, that limelight kind of dies off and it kind of leaves you with this feeling of, oh, I was just in the middle of this tornado for a couple of years there, and now I'm outside of it, and life sort of returns to normal to whatever extent. I mean, it's such a big trial that it's kind of like, to a certain extent, it never returns to normal. But when did that really start to feel like it was kicking in?
When it kind of wore off, it was probably, I'd say 99, 2000. I was still getting bits on shows. I was getting, but I saw it, and I didn't mind at all. I thought, okay, maybe I can start getting the readings and all that, but it didn't go so much that way because there still was this. People would always kind of relate the trial. I had so many contracts and jobs on those days where it was just, no, we're not going to do it after all. Some commercials, they did that. And there were some commercials I did get that were great. Like the one that I loved the best was like a Trivial Pursuit. It paid great. And that was the voice of the 90s Trivial Pursuit, but it was a huge campaign. And then another one I'll send you if you ever add stuff in your show was when those .coms were everywhere, and they paid a ton. And I was the Ask.com. They had 450 Kato lookalikes, and it won a Clio Award. It's the best commercial.
Really? Was this before Ask.com kind of became Ask Jeeves, or this after Ask Jeeves became Ask.com? Right?
Yeah, it was a huge campaign.
People got sick of the butler.
Yeah. So it was like, I got what I was looking for, sort of a deal. But we, shot Prague, and then huge director. Then they filmed some in Hollywood, and I was like, wow, it was like a 4-day shoot or something.
Yeah, but it's wild because.
But that was like, by the way, when that kind of goes on, you go like, oh, finally, this is going to be huge, and you think that. All right, everybody's going to want, and it doesn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way for me.
Really? Because I mean, given that like you were trying before this, you were trying to make it as an actor. I mean, when you hear the stories of being an actor, this is an insanely difficult pursuit to take on because you do 100 auditions and maybe you get one role, and that is like the most normal thing in the world. Meanwhile, you're going through that, but you're getting these no's for like a probably more specific reason, and you know that you're not gonna know how your acting career necessarily would have gone if not for this. That's got to be tough to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, oh my God, what could have been? And what you can't assume, but I thought, okay, little by little, I'm getting really good readings, and then everything just kind of stopped. So I think that happens probably for a lot, but I really am kind of happy where I'm at, and I think I still think things are going to happen in the world of acting. Maybe I just feel it. I've gotten very confident, not cocky. I've just been really confident, and
Yeah.
something wonderful is just happening. And maybe it's a true crime show or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of us kind of go through this life arc where you're trying, and then something just explodes. Like in my case, it was just basically interviewing all these SoundCloud rappers before that became totally commonplace, And for you, it became basically just being fucking, living in the same place as a extremely famous crime. But then at some point, you've gone through that experience, and you kind of just have to figure out what the fuck you're doing with your life and what you can make of this. And it's really at the end of the day, like, what is going to make you happy is spending time with your family, your loved ones, being able to have a good life. And maybe at a certain point you think like either you're dreaming about being super famous or whatever, and then you kind of get there and you realize like that was cool, it's still cool, but ultimately, like, what do I want from my life? It's not really necessarily to be the most famous person possible. It's just to be comfortable, be able to take care of the people around me, etc.
Well, I'm gonna like I said, I didn't have time when I didn't know if I could send you stuff and all that. So I want to show you something, and maybe even after we're done, and you can comment. It's a 2-minute something that they did with a buddy of mine. Honestly, it's like, oh, Kato, you're saying it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'm going to have your honest opinion on something that I shot and with a huge company, and I think it's so good, but because it's a true crime show, and basically it's called Wrong Place, Wrong Time. But for you to see how hard it is in this world of networks now not having so much money, or people that call you in, you go to 3 meetings, and if you get 2 meetings in the same company, you're going, oh, I sold, this is a done deal.
Right.
When you get 3, it's like, what are they waiting? Let's just sign this thing. So it's happened on something that I did 4 times on this 4 times, and it's like, what's going on? So I'm going, is it because they don't like, or is it because of me? But it's the most perfect role for me that I did with a buddy. And after this, I want you to see it. If you can comment on your own, if you ever do like inserts.
Yeah.
But I want to share it with you after talking to you.
No, I would love to check that out. But I mean, that's interesting you said that. That's the vibe, is that these production companies that maybe used to have big budgets, that these days they're trying to make something on a shoestring for the most part. No,
production companies, it's put money. It's the networks and all, because they have to, or if they order 10 episodes, it's like they look at a budget. It's like we had a meeting with CBS, and they even said you have to go to companies like Netflix and Hulu. They've got all the money. So it's like, well, it's just become a completely growing up. It's totally different now. Networks have money, but the money is in Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing. I had a buddy of mine that just did an Amazon series with David Harbour, who's I think one of the best actors, with Jason Bateman in that, and he shot in the amount of money that they paid my friend. It just blows me away. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I mean, it's unfathomable how much money they have. So it's like, okay, that's probably why I'm thinking it's got to be so close for me.
Yeah.
All these things, all these people are coming in, and he is a big shot, and he saw what I'm going to show you, and he is just like, Kato, this is great. So,
definitely.
We'll see.
I was just wondering, like, as you get older, because I told you before, and I almost felt bad saying this, even though I don't think this is something that you would give a shit about anyway, but like my wife, when I said, dude, I got a Kato Kaelin interview on Wednesday, I see her on ChatGPT asking who's Kato Kaelin. That's got to be kind of a weird feeling that she's only 8 years younger than me. She should realistically,
right?
Although I guess in 1996 she was 6 years old, so maybe not. But
Netflix is what brought it back, I think. But
yeah, and she did watch the whole series, so that's why she should have known.
And the other one that was with Ryan Murphy, they won like 17 or nominated for 17. They won 8 Emmys. That was the one that John Travolta played Shapiro, and Billy Magnuson was Kato, and he was in No Time to Die, the Bond film.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, dude, that guy's on fire. He played in Kato.
But is that a weird feeling to have? Yeah. Like multiple younger generations to which that whole storyline that consumed America and your life is kind of like, ancient history? Is that kind of a strange feeling sometimes?
Yeah, completely. It's funny because when I was even doing the emceeing and all that, the parents with their kids of the Comic-Cons, they would go, "Do you know what that is?" And the kids, they didn't know. No, they saw me as the MC, but the parents all knew who I was. So for me, it was cathartic. It was that's kind of a good vibe.
Yeah.
They're not associating me with the OJ trial. And when I did the show called Eye for an Eye, I was the host. It was 147 episodes. It was on in LA. It was syndicated, but it was on everywhere in the world. When I would go to airports and people would ask me about that show and the judge's name, Extreme Hakeem, they go, Extreme Hakeem. I was like, oh my God, the good stuff's happening. People are seeing me for this show. And that, by the way, was a best thing for me because it was financially great. I was hosting a national show. It was like, wow. And 147 episodes is a lot.
No,
and
that's
people
amazing,
kind of recognize, and so it had some legs for
Definitely.
me to do.
I wanted to ask you about the time period of this whole trial going on. It essentially kind of started to be viewed through the prism of like a racial conflict in America, where it was very much the traditional white mainstream, et cetera, and then black people who were in particular, especially in LA, very upset about the Rodney King verdict. And at one point, one of the jurors even basically said that the majority of the jurors didn't actually think that OJ was innocent, but they felt like some kind of retribution was needed. I don't know how literal that was. I think that's been kind of, ChatGPT says that's been kind of skewed and exaggerated. But in general, like, what was it like being around that climate at that time?
Well, I think part of the riots of the Rodney King riots,
which led to the LA riots as well.
Yeah, the LA riots were happening, all that. I mean, the whole city was on fire. Parts of Santa Monica, I mean, West Hollywood, they're still flaming. I'm kidding. But I had some kind of humor in there because it's so serious, which I love. Parts are still flaming, So, but because I did so many interviews, back in the day, I had a convertible, like a Beamer. People would come I got it for a week and I was like, I got rid of it. People would come up to you violently or not. Spitting on me was common. I got spit on a lot.
What?
Oh yeah. But because of the divide by the media showing black and white, you knew there were going to be riots. I think if he's not seen as not guilty verdict that happened, I don't know if someone went in the juror. I can't say, but I gotta imagine they're thinking there's going to be riots again. The city was going to be, on fire. Yeah. So who's to know? The jury made a decision. Maybe it's based on Barry Scheck's brilliant DNA analysis. I don't know, because I think it was 100%. Race relations went so far backwards, especially in LA. Yeah. It was all about race. The defense totally played a race card, and it was pretty obvious. Everybody, I think, that had a brain was watching on the newscast. They knew they played a race card. And Johnny Cochran, late Cochran, Johnny Cochran, was brilliant because he knew how he could play it, I think.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is, as a lawyer, this is your job to do the best job you can defending your client. Yeah. But when you look at that, it really f***s society up. And I remember even just the discussion of the race card was kind of like a fascinating thing. I'm like 12 when all this is going on. Yeah. But I recognized that there was something unique about this, where you're having people acknowledge publicly that race was something that could be used to skew public opinion, which I don't really recall being discussed in that way prior to that. In fact, I feel like the OJ trial was the first time we ever heard the N-word used publicly. I don't know if it was ever really used before that. No,
never used. And that was another huge part of the case of when Furman kept pleading the fifth, and Detective Lang, he says that was the case. They knew that as soon as they could ask any kind of question, if he keeps pleading the fifth, it was like, it was defeating to the LAPD. So the case became more about the racism with the LAPD and detectives. So, the jury's hearing this and they're making mind up going, well, there could be going on with Rodney King. This is getting beat up in Simi Valley. So I think it plays in their mind of reasonable doubt.
Oh, you just reminded me that one time I was out because I was a BMX rider before this whole podcasting thing. And I remember one time riding in Simi Valley and my friend pulled the car over and he goes, "This is where Rodney King got beat." And we just happened to be on the street and he happened to know where it was. And I remember getting out of the car and just looking at it and being like, this is the most nondescript place
Straight-
where you could ever imagine something so influential or explosive happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I don't know if that was that 92 or whatever, if there were cell phones. Remember, it was all filmed. So
No,
I don't
no
know if
cell
I-
phones. It
so
was like
filmed.
video
It was-
camera
Someone had a video camera
from
at
the
that time.
window. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you'd never really seen anything like that
Yeah,
before.
it was like that kind of started the whole thing. And now cameras and the phone, it's like you can't do anything is going to be recorded because sometimes, I don't know, you're on Twitter, probably X.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated of all the stuff that's covered on the certain people I follow. And I'm like, are people not aware that you're pretty much 24/7, you're on camera somewhere, except in your studio? Are the cameras on?
Oh yeah, these are on. No, but
right, it's always, you can't get, I don't know how anybody, even your cars, like
Yeah.
Tesla, you said, and the Wham-Was, everything's got a camera.
exactly. I mean, even that, like OJ would have been found guilty in no time. There wouldn't even been a trial if that happened in modern times, because you would have had cell phone data, you would have had people's cameras outside their houses
Right.
filming. It
Ring
was just
camera,
so it would have been impossible for him to get off, like in
Yeah.
modern times. And that's what's kind of amazing about the fact that people are still killing each other, is because when you look back to the 70s or 80s, it looks like a free-for-all. How the fuck was anybody getting caught?
100%. Yeah, we talk about that all the time because the technology now, it's
Yeah.
like technology really screwed it up for serial killers.
Yeah.
I always, and it's not even so much a joke, but I've always said it's like the technology. It's like the killings, but there's killings going on because I think now with no one being educated, they don't care if they go to prison or not. They'll shoot them even on camera. I mean, you can go on X on your phone and see murders. There's just, it's on camera. It's like, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I remember even 2021 that there was some website that had like a lot of like really gory videos of like cartel assassinations and stuff like that. And we had the link to the site. We're sitting around. I probably watched 5 or 6 of them before I'm like, okay, I don't know. This is fucking up my vibe. Like, I don't want to see this shit. And a couple of my friends kept watching it. And when I think about it now, a lot of that footage wouldn't even, pique my interest at this point, because I'm so inundated with that kind of content on X that I just constantly see it.
Yeah.
And I just feel completely numb to it. Like a video of a bunch of people getting sprayed up in a drive-by, just, if I don't know anybody associated with this, you just keep scrolling. It's sad, but what am I going to do?
There's a ton of that too.
Yeah.
Of like you said, the spray. Like I see that probably right now. I could find one of someone at a 7-Eleven where they're getting shot up and running out of a car and doing it right. Someone's shooting in the head.
Yeah.
So that's all over. It's like, how do they? I don't know how dumb or whatever. It's all on camera.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you ever listened to the hardcore band, the Cro-Mags, but I was watching an interview clip with the singer, and he's like probably 60, grew up in New York City, and he was comparing right now versus back then in terms of crime and craziness. And he's like, he goes, I honestly think as bad as it was back then, that it's worse now. And the reason why is because the guns are way better and the drugs are way more powerful. And if you think about it, it's like the drugs that people were doing in the 80s were nothing. Smoking crack is nothing compared to fentanyl and meth and all this crazy shit that's going on. And then like the fact that now they have guns that could let off 40 shots in 5 seconds is just like, I mean, you can't compare that to somebody running around with a revolver, where if you want to shoot somebody, you got to get, relatively close to them.
I agree with that 100%. That's back then. It was single shot or whatever, 44 Magnum or whatever, but it was it was totally different. And I think the crimes back then were like with serial killers. I think they were more thought out. I guess you could say thought out, because now they realize that they wouldn't get caught without. It's too hard with technology. I think about the BTK killer, the bind, torture, and kill. How long I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't.
Bind, torture, kill guy was that he was had this job like in Kansas City, and he was an architect, going to work every day, and it took them forever to catch him. But it's one letter they delivered in a post office box. It went back to him, married, 3 kids or whatever, had a home, and they found just everything in his attic. And it's, Google it later. It's just the bind, torture, and killing of how he did it. But he did it every time his wife went on vacation.
Wow.
And it's an incredible story, and that's going to be someone's got to do a feature film on this guy.
Do you think that
Dennis Radar, that's his name?
Okay. Do you think I got to watch the Ed Gein documentary on Netflix? I'm meaning to get to that
tomorrow. I have the guy on our show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's sick. Do you
Not
think?
Ed Gein.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm from Wisconsin. I know Plainfield. I drive by it every summer.
Right. Do you think the school shooter thing or the church shooter thing is that the same impulse that used to previously get us serial killers, but now that same energy has been like diverted in this other way? Or are these two separate phenomena?
I think it's two separate things. I think the serial killers are more planned out. They fix their satisfaction of that. It comes to them that night. I got to kill, and then they plan it and they get away with it and keep a souvenir. The mass shootings are just someone that's just they've come to a point. I'm going to do it. This is it. I know I'm going to get killed that day.
Yeah.
And they just go and they do it.
Yeah. It's almost like, if you wanted to just take your own life, well, here's how you make a splash. Here's how you get everybody to talk about you. Here's how you're able to make your weird statement with the letter that you leave behind or anything like that. It's just like the most attention getting version of that, which is
that's
wild.
Also a sociopath though.
Yeah.
They're this people that they're whether they're transgender or not, whatever it is, but we're finding out that the last 7 major killings, major mass shootings have been all transgender. I mean, come on, there's something to that. Either with the drugs they're taking, the transition or whatever, something's got to go screw up your mind that you become. Some drugs say you might have suicidal thoughts that are on TV running ads.
Really,
you might have some of the drugs they'll say may cause cramping, may cause diarrhea, may cause suicidal tendencies. But they say that in the commercial. It's like. So if you're getting pumped up and you're getting hormone changes, something's got to happen. I have a doctor here. He'll, he can.
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor, man. He'll know about this.
Not on the clock today. No, just hanging out. Okay.
But he knows a lot about the drugs like fentanyl. Fentanyl, if it's used the right way, it's the most best drug for you, but it's not used the right way.
Right. Yeah.
Am I right by saying that? Best for pain.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody who's
but it's
been under the influence of it. Yeah, it's very good for pain.
Like I said, when I went down to Skid Row, I guarantee there's so many people because they were just in that frozen state you see.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing it live. This is real.
Yeah. When I was in Boston the other day, we were walking around and I saw a guy who was doing like the fentanyl thing where you kind of like bend down while you're still standing there. And they're just sort of like hunched over, and they'll find a wall to kind of lean against or whatever. And it's the saddest thing ever. And I had my kid ask me what's going on with that guy, and that was the first time that I had to give her some weird rambling response to try to explain it away without saying, you're 5 or you're whatever, almost 5, and she's not ready for the real explanation, but. Right. Yeah, that was just
the only good part of that story for you is that when he was hunched over, the last guy had diarrhea. Something about you and hunched over people.
Well, it was the exact same pose. Yeah, this person just hadn't.
Run!
Oh yeah, I got only a couple more questions. Did you see the Charlie Sheen documentary that came out recently? Because I know that you guys were real cool at a certain point.
We were inseparable in the '90s for at least 2.5 years. He's the greatest, and he does stuff that for charitable things. I know he paid for a police officer's cancer treatment they couldn't afford. He doesn't want anybody to know he does these things. He's the guy that does these things, and you'll never hear it from anybody. I'm telling you because I saw it. But he doesn't do it. He's kind. And have a fascination in baseball. He would rent. We had baseball games every Saturday at this park up in Azura, what is it called? Right past Calabasas, Azura Hills, whatever. Sure. It's up there. We had guys that played pro ball, the most fun ever. Every Sunday, watch football. It'd be guys like Sean Penn, Nick Cage, and C. Thomas Howell and Carrie Elwes, and watch Sunday football. I can't tell. It was the best time, and it was always at one of his place up in Mullen at the time. Guy is the greatest, and I'm so happy that he's sober now 8 years. I'm so happy that he's got it together.
When you were spending all that time with him, was this before the drugs kind of took over?
I saw parts of it. I would not be. I'm a real positive thing. I think if anything, I hung around during the parts of like being his friend of don't do this. Did I see things? Yes. I didn't like it, and I usually would leave. He's got a great friend in Tony Todd, who's in the documentary series. Tony and I,
right? That guy did seem great. Yeah.
Tony's just got a text from yesterday, and stay in touch. Stay in touch. Of I think he's on the path. I think when you get, like you said, you get older and all that, you start going, all right, maybe I cheated certain things. Me personally, he did think I can't believe that you saw in the documentary that he's alive. And
Exactly.
we don't need to
yes.
lose him. He's got so much to offer the world and all the things that he's doing. He's great soul. And yeah, I saw everything. And like I said, we were honestly inseparable. We did riding in his cars on Mullen, going so freaking fast. Going, Charlie, don't, please, I don't want to die.
Right.
No, I'm not, like, stuff that's crazy, but I was not for him doing the bad. When there were bad people at the house, I knew bad things were going to happen. And I would leave. And it was a place where he had some stuff that went on that was really, really dangerous.
Really, yeah. I mean, very rare that somebody could get that deep into drugs and addiction and to still have, like, almost everybody who speaks about them have positive things to say. Usually, to be honest, that much drugs usually turns you into a pretty shitty person.
Yeah.
But everybody that you hear talk about them seems like they have a pretty favorable opinion of them.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the parts that people don't know that he's talking about is how much charity he gave to people. And the guy was just so, is great to me. Back in the 90s, we had a film deal. It was I kept the contract of that was going to be made. Never got made, but I still have the contract of what I was going to be paid and to do a film with him. And I still have it. It was, back then it was called How to Eat a Hamburger and Drive. That was the title.
And Drive?
And Drive. How to Eat a Hamburger. But I don't know if that would be the right.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I eat salads while
There's
driving.
a film behind that, and I love them. So I still have that contract at home, and maybe one day.
Okay, so but despite spending that much time around him, you never got into drugs or never gave it a shot?
No. I honestly, I God as my witness, and never even got an urge to do anything, to do a drug. And I think it's because this is me now talking, because it would take away from where I am. I didn't want anything to control my brain. I really did. I didn't want it to control, and probably some of the people going, Kato Kaelin, you're so full of shit. I swear that just wasn't me. I just wasn't into it.
Yeah, I have so much respect for people that come into the world knowing that about themselves, because when I think about my life, like, I don't think I ever really wanted to drink. I just did it to fit in. And when I look back at it, it's like, God, how much of my life did I waste on that I didn't have to? And I just could have, I could have had a much better life probably if I had been a little bit more determined to just being myself,
Oh, 100%. And I have friends that do drugs. I have friends that drink. I mean, I have a beer every night. I'm not against any of that stuff. I'm from Milwaukee. My God, the capital of beer. Me personally, I don't. Plus, I'm a migraine sufferer, so I'm sure that helps out.
Really?
I can't have certain things, and I get an intense migraine that would, even if I have that one beer or wine, you can feel a migraine coming. You're like, okay, no more.
Right.
So that kind of saves me too, I think.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because to be honest, like, drinking and me, I never got fully into it because it just fucks my stomach up so bad that I felt like every time I get drunk, I would just be hitting the toilet 10 times over the course of the next morning. And it's like, that's why I would, like, drink, but then I would not drink for a week and then binge drink again. But when I look at the people in my life who are just drinking all the time, I'm like, I don't think my body ever would have, like, allowed me to do that. It would have just been too painful. That kind of kept it at bay.
I had a doctor friend, different doctor, another doctor friend. He said, you can drink all you want as long in the 24-hour period you go and you sweat it out by working out or something. He said, all that will leave your liver, your kidneys, and your skin. It'll dissipate. He's smarter than me, so I don't know if it's true or not, but he swears by it.
Yeah, so, I mean, probably a lot better than the alternative.
But when you're hungover and all, I don't know how many people have that 24-hour period that actually can have that stamina to go, yeah, I drank, I'm going to go work out now.
Yeah, no, definitely, like, being able to just sweat it off. Especially, people would, like, talk about that, but then, like, as you get older, I feel like the effectiveness of that is a little bit less intense. Like, the last time that I ever got fucked up, New Year's 2019, bunch of Coke, bunch of Molly, bunch of alcohol, had the craziest orgy of my whole life.
I saw it on YouTube. It's great.
Yeah, no, it is on Pornhub if you want to check it out. Yeah.
Just joking. And what happened?
I had like a 2-day hangover, and I was like, okay, 2 days. This is. I'm done. Yeah.
And you just, like, crashed out. That's it. You couldn't move.
I just, like, was in bed in the hotel for like 2 days, and, like, by the end of the second day, I'm kind of starting to feel okay, and I'm just kind of looking at my girl, just like, we can't keep doing this, right? This is ridiculous. And then year and a half later, we had a kid. Oh. Like somehow turning off that party part of my life opened the door for me saying, like, what are we actually fucking doing here? Let's have a kid. Yeah.
And how old's your kid?
5, almost 5.
That's great.
Yeah.
good man.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask you about your daughter. Do you remember having to have the conversation with her about why you were famous?
Oh yeah. My daughter's 40 now. 40. That's
40
my,
is insane.
yeah. So yeah, my daughter, I pick her at school. She played along because she knew the fame, what you could get away with. So it was sort of really kind of, it was really good for her. The only bad part is when I'd have her, we couldn't really go out. So that kind of, you couldn't just go to the movie back then when it was at its height.
Yeah.
So she saw that. So, and it, at certain points, she would say that the kids, when they, it was great for her, it was great. But when they picked on her, it was tough on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's it. But talk to her every day.
No, 40 is insane. Like, I mean, that's just,
I know it doesn't make sense.
This is like the least clickbaity conversation possible. But yeah, like, what is it like to have a kid who's like made it all the way to adulthood like that?
Yeah, my wife is younger than my daughter. So I don't know it's good or bad. When you have a reception at Chuck E. Cheese, it's a little bit too young there. Hey, honey, we're in the ball bin. Take your shoes off. No.
Oh, shit.
When your best man is Jerry Lee Lewis, I'm saying. No, I tell a story about that. It's like my buddies. This is true. My buddies were all like, "Hey, we got to have a bachelor party, man. We got a bachelor party." I don't want a bachelor party, guys. Forget it.
Yeah.
When you hire strippers, they're from AARP. So I said that when their tits, when their bra size is 38 long, it's like, okay, not going to work out, Adam. It's a bad party.
Holy shit! No, you've done stand up or no?
Yeah, I've hosted.
Okay.
So I've hosted comedy clubs and all that. So yeah, I've got, I've done stand-up. Yeah, I have done stand-up. I've done a lot of hosting. Like I said, I did the Wizard World in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I write a lot, and I'll probably end up, I just did a public speaking with, like I said, the detectives, and I got to, it was out of stage, so I got to do my bits. I think that's my best thing, is that I'm not dirty at all. I'm kind of clean, and I love the whole thing. I've gone to thousands of I've got so many comedic friends that are huge stars, and I don't do it like they do. I have stories kind of like on a show. Mine's better to have a dialogue with humor.
Well, I did see, rest in peace, Norm Macdonald, but you guys were real friends at the time.
Yeah, Norm, I taught him basketball. He's your height, and I told him I play in this league, you should play. So like we said, with golf, we did so many Vegas trips together, and we were all inseparable at one point and hanging out. And he was awful. He's so uncoordinated. A month later, took him to the court, showed him all that. He got so much better. He had his manager and his dear friend Lori Joe from Saturday Night Live. Lojo would tape all of the games, and on Wednesdays we'd tape the basketball game, go, and she'd cook dinner and have a meal at like 11 o'clock. So we played from 8 to 10:30 or so.
Wow.
And it was like a great memory. Then I did 2 episodes of the Norm Show. And
I saw that.
Yeah.
And what year was it that you guys had your falling out? And did
we didn't have a falling out.
Oh, you didn't?
No, everybody said we had a falling out.
I think it says that on Wikipedia.
Yeah, we just kind of did. I hung out with Artie Lang and me and Norm. And then back then, Jim Downey would be at his house, and Jim is the guy that's on Fallon's show now, the kind of the Ed McMahon who introduces things.
Yeah.
I just remember all these great things. So there was no fight. I think if anything, Norm, he gambled, and I was with him certain times in Vegas. Where hardest part about being kind of famous and all that is that when you gamble and you lose and you're out in a public place, and for me and for Norm or whatever, more Norm because he was high stakes, is what's Norm and all that, and you just lost $100,000. If you knew the difficulty of what it was like, you're feeling when you gamble and you lose something. I mean, I'm really ugly.
Yeah.
And I knows I gamble. I am so fucking ugly I can't be around people, but when someone does that, it's like, I always have a picture. You got to turn it off and like, oh yeah. And it's really hard to do, but you can fake it.
Yeah.
And he had to do that a lot.
Yeah. No, for sure. I've seen like clips of friends of mine, like Steve Will Do It is a very popular influencer, streamer, etc. And I've seen that dynamic take place where a fan will be like complaining, and they'll sometimes have like a video clip of him being a dick to them because they try to get a photo with him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, bro, I just lost $500,000. Like, what the do you want from me?
That's that people don't know from that moment you ask for photo. You don't know what happened the 3 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
So that's the toughest part. But that happens a lot of you and not just a scam, just anything. If you had something bad that just happened,
Yeah.
and it's hard to do that, and you can't. It's hard to explain to a fan or whatever. It's like, hey, but he said I lost $500,000, but I saw lots of things that happen.
Yeah.
And we like would golf a lot of times and very competitive.
Definitely. It's a shame that we didn't get to see more of Norm in like the modern podcast world.
Yeah.
Because he would have just been such an amazing addition to so many of these shows, you know?
Yeah, he had another show he did. It was on. It was after the Norm show. It was sort of the podcast format where he had a lot of people.
Okay,
The desks, the sort of thing was filmed. So I think so. He had I met Super Dave, golf with him, Kevin Nealon. So I had that whole clique of greatest people, minds, comic minds, and hung out. And you remember Super Dave?
Yeah.
Dave Osborne of that golf with him. He passed away. I knew Gilbert Gottfried passed away. Norm passed away. There's more. I just can't think of how many comics have just died this last like 2 years.
Yeah, it's sad, man. And I see the way that for my parents, it gets to be an increasingly lonely feeling, just having so many. Like you get to the point where like 90% of the people you've been close with throughout your life are gone.
Yeah,
I mean, God, that's just a punishing
with the
feeling.
parents. I lost my parents. I know it's like, oh wow. But everybody's got to deal with it. I don't know if you lost anybody, but you lost a friend just recently.
Yeah.
You got to deal. Grief is a growing experience.
Yeah.
So, and I've been around lots of grief, not just with the OJ case, but just family stuff that's happened. But we won't get into that. And you grow with grief.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate you coming through, man. It was great getting to have a conversation.
It was a good time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Great,
man.
everybody there. I had so much fun. I mean, your whole staff and crew.
Hell yeah.
So, and I'm going to show you this. That's 2 minutes after we
for sure. I would love to check it out. Yeah,
just real quick, and then I got to head out to a radio gig.
Oh,
Man,
nice.
I had honestly, I'm so glad I met because I didn't know what to expect, and that was great. Great thing. It was very great release, man. You were great.
No,
really good interview.
Yeah, thank you. And I never would have expected that you would have came in with quite the energy level. Yeah.
You love it. Thanks, everybody.
Amazing.
Best time.
Kato Kaelin, great American, no jumper, coolest podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe.
And tell them 1 Degree of Scandalous. Also go to my podcast. Is 1 Degree of Scandalous, Tom Zenner channel, Zener, Kato Kaelin. 1 Degree of Scandalous, YouTube and all that, and you guys will love it. It's a great show.
It just occurred to me, if you want to be popular with women, you should start a true crime podcast, right?
That's it, baby. That's
not how you met your wife, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
She loves the show, though.
That'd be a good story, though.
I'm going to show you something. Love y'all.
Appreciate y'all.